Okay, today we're playing a game on Hollywood. We are in the Gold SR range, and we will be playing Moira the entire way through. And our current team composition is Winston, Roadhog, Widowmaker, Genji, Moira, and Mercy. You might notice that Mei is behind the screen right now. Don't worry, that's actually Mercy. She's just wearing a lot of layers, and she hasn't put her heels on yet, but she's about to. So we basically have a dive comp right now. The only thing that's kind of awkward about it is that there isn't a tank that can really help Winston dive. Like, we don't have a D.Va or a Zarya to go in. Well, Zarya doesn't go in with him, but you get the idea. Someone that can help Winston dive. Roadhog doesn't really help Winston dive that much. Other than that, yeah, it's basically just a dive comp. So let's start the game. Watch this incredible magic trick right here. She goes off screen. Oh, look, it's Mercy suddenly. So, as we can see, their team is already rather annoying. Moira is a little bit awkward to play on Hollywood because it is a map that revolves around high ground control. Not so much the first checkpoint, more the second checkpoint. But, it can be difficult for Moira on Hollywood because she is a hero that naturally just struggles with high ground control because she has no vertical mobility herself. So, Roadhog's getting away from us right now. We aren't being that efficient with our resource so far because we're sort of trying to heal people that are out of range, basically, and we're running after him like, oh, come back, please. Which ends up not being very productive usually. So here's a Symmetra. Symmetra is dead. She has not yet gotten to put her ultimate down, which is good. However, a few members of our team... Well, no, not a few members, just Winston right now is dead. It's soon a few members of our team will be dead, don't worry, because this is... Neither team sees the third checkpoint on this map. It gets resolved on the street phase, which is not that unusual for Hollywood, you know. The only map where the street phase is a reasonable location to expect the game to end, because like Numbani street phase, no, never. Kings Row street phase, occasionally. Hollywood street phase fairly regularly, mostly because people don't want to like actually control the high ground, so it just ends up being like really awkward. So Mercy got fucking pinned instead of Roadhog, which is very sad for her and very sad for us in general. McCree's using High Noon, fortunately no concern for us. And we just sort of managed to slink our way through the door. This fade is way too aggressive. I've got no issue with fading in aggressively, but you are fading directly into a Symmetra, who 1v1 will kill you, because her beam is better than yours, and her teammates happen to be over there as well. We get away with it, but we should not have done that. We can just like, you can just like hang out around this doorway, chucking orbs through it, and have a great time. There's no need to be so excited to go in there and fight. So we've got Coalescence, we're just going to use Coalescence, and their Symmetra has managed to put her teleporter down, but Genji has used the blade to kill her and the teleporter. And then we get pinned, which is very unfortunate, but like, we've already won this fight, as I'm sure you can tell. We didn't really have to do anything for that checkpoint. It just sort of all worked out. Miraculously enough, especially considering Mercy got pinned out of nowhere partway through the fight. But by that point, they were already starting to lose. It's like, it just goes to show you how important Symmetra not dying is during the first checkpoint, right? Because Symmetra died with her ultimate, right? Because she managed to put it down basically as soon as she returned. So, and it got a little scary, right? Like, you were probably thinking we might lose this fight after Symmetra put the teleporter down, but we were able to break it. Imagine if she didn't die during the first fight and she was able to just put the teleporter down. There's no way we would have caught that checkpoint, at least not easily. Because Genji actually had to use his ultimate to kill the teleporter, and we already had, like, the advantage during the fight, which is why he was allowed to do that as well. So if she didn't die, it would have been a lot harder for us. If you're playing Symmetra, don't die during the first checkpoint. It's like, you know, it's just, oh wow, really, don't die. What incredible advice. But like, no, really, like Symmetra dying before she gets to put her ultimate down is like the biggest disaster her team can possibly be subjected to. Especially since their team probably went, oh, Symmetra's a support, so we only need one healer because we got 2 supports. Which is wrong, but that's what they do. So it's just like, Symmetra dies, they've got 1 healer, the Symmetra hasn't gotten to put down her very impactful ultimate yet. The 1 healer is struggling because she's the 1 healer, and then the team just loses, and then Symmetra gets back right after all the fighting is done and is like, hey, I put the teleporter down! And then they lose the checkpoint 3 seconds later. Ah, fuck. Don't die if you're playing Symmetra, it's very important. Don't run after people trying to microwave them, just throw orbs at people. So, now we're on the street phase. This is the phase of Hollywood that Moira really struggles with, because the street phase on Hollywood is basically all about high ground control, really. That's unfortunate, because it kind of looked like he was in the bubble, but whatever. So we've got D.Va trying to fight us right now, which is not the end of the world. Like, honestly, we could just fight the D.Va. Like, we don't even need to run away from her, and now that we've gotten through her armor, we'll actually break her mech eventually. We end up getting pinned by Reinhardt, which is really unlucky. Reinhardt's having a great time, but, like, we could just fight her, because there's a large health kit over there. And, like, I can almost guarantee you the D.Va would run away first, because she's gonna get down to half health and start sweating, and be like, oh no, I can't just die to a support, it's the shame, and she'll run away. And then we can, you know, let our other healer try and heal, but she might actually be dead right now. Where is Mercy? No, Mercy's over there. No, we could have just fought the D.Va. If someone tries to 1v1 you as Moira, just fight them, honestly, because most of the time you can take them. It's pretty rare that somebody 1v1 will kill Moira, unless they're a god or you really fuck up. And here's the thing, even if there is technically something better you could be doing with your time, right? Like, tilting the enemy team is not to be underestimated, and nothing tilts the enemy team more than when, like, one person ends up fighting Moira and they just get trounced, right? Like, I've been fighting soldiers before and they've just been like, fuck it, I can't kill her, and they just use Tac Visor right there, and then they're tilted for the rest of the game, basically. Tilting the enemy team is an important part of Overwatch, because as we all know, the team that tilts first is the team that loses. Fighting Moira 1v1 is a very tilting experience, because she just sits there, not really taking any damage. So, anyway, yeah, tilt the enemy team, it's pretty cool. We just like witnessed Mercy get murdered, which is very sad. The sad thing is I watched that sequence right there, and I'm like, I would have died, because you know what I would have done? I would have absolutely faded past Reinhardt's shield, like, I'm gonna get him! And then I would have probably been punished by his team, but, I'm a very bloodthirsty man, like, whenever I look at, like, my Moira stats, I've got, like, top 1% damage, and then, like, top 40% healing. Like, I like to fight people a lot. But it's alright, though. I still win. So, that's the important thing. It's like whenever I look at my Reinhardt stats, it's always like, top 5% damage, top 60% deaths. I'm like, but I got him. Still win games. That's the important thing. Don't get punished, don't have to learn. So, we have almost got Coalescence, which is cool. It's not the most impactful ultimate in the world, but it does charge really fast, which makes it very impactful by proxy. So I would just start using it, like, right here. He's taking a breather, so he's not gonna die, and then you start coalescing him, and he will probably also not die. And then you can spend your time also hitting the enemy team, because they're crowding up on the Roadhog. Because this is the thing with Moira's ultimate, people tend to only use it thinking of one thing, right? They think, I'm either going to use it to heal, or I'm going to use it to do damage. You ideally want to use it for both, because then you're getting maximum value out of the ultimate. Instead, we end up using it basically just to heal Roadhog, because by the time we get back out here again, it's half over, which is just very tragic. And then, it ends up not being very impactful. But because he's taking a breather, you know he's probably not going to die right there, unless, like, they just suddenly pull a lot of damage out of their pocket. And then, once he's being coalesced, he won't die. So, unfortunately, Mercy is dead right now. Also, we're very low, and then Genji, oh. It's very sad. I've been there before. Alright, so you want to know the thing that really tilts me. When you're like, your low health is support, Moira in this context, because that's usually the healer I'm playing, and this happens frequently. You're low health, and somebody's with you who is low health, and you're running towards the health kit, and then they just slide over and take it from you while you're healing them. So they end up healing like 5 health off the health kit, and then you're standing there at like half health. And that's when I stop healing that person, and I just leave them to die, so that they know I'm upset with them. And then they get tilted, and then we lose the game. This Overwatch is a very delicate balancing act, this game, you know?
Mercy, 5 of us were in there. You're the only one that wasn't actually playing the game.
We are e-bullying some people in the chat, it sounds like, because they were starting a fight. We can't hear their end of the fight, though, which is very sad, so... I do love a good internet fight. So we've stepped on a trap, which is very sad. Watch your feet. Not the most helpful advice in the world, but watch your feet. So, this is the kind of situation where you consider using a healing orb, because it's actually a decent spot to use it, because there are a bunch of people close together taking a lot of damage, and because of the way the street phase is made, you can actually get value out of the healing orb, because you can bounce it off one of the walls, and then it will bounce back and forth across the street a few times. And don't forget, it's there for 10 seconds, so as long as it doesn't just, like, start going up, or, like, bounce off really awkwardly and start leaving, it'll probably get the full 300 healing out, oh god, in this kind of situation, because, like, we're having a fight on the payload right now. However, there is a diva here, which is just generally always going to make things pretty sad for Moira, because she can just eat your orbs. But that's the kind of situation where healing orb can be pretty helpful, because you're in the middle of the team fight. So, we tried to heal Genji. Honestly, if someone's being microwaved by Symmetra, just try and kill the Symmetra. Don't bother trying to heal the person, because you won't heal them through it. Then, Winston's around this corner, getting killed, and we don't really make any effort to try and heal him, even though we should. We can help try, like, Baby Diva dies anyway, but, like, as soon as you see that, just, like, chuck the damage orb past her, because only takes 2 seconds to do 100 damage. That's almost all of Baby Diva's health. She dies anyway. Like, she gets murdered, like, but, like, when you see Diva pop out of the mech, just, like, chuck the damage orb past the mech to try and kill Baby Diva, because Baby Diva is, sort of annoying to kill, and the damage orb is basically just kills Diva, more or less. So, now we've started to get some momentum going, finally. This game has not really ended up being that much about high ground control, which is sometimes the case on Hollywood, but as we can see, our team are off having no self-preservation instincts right now, because we are in gold SR. Not that it ever really gets any better. Don't worry, if you're playing Mercy, don't do that. It's like, best case scenario, you res the person, and then they immediately die, right? Like, worst case scenario is just there, you don't even res the person, and then you end up losing the cooldown because you died mid-res. It's like, even the best case scenario is still really fucking bad. Just, like, don't do that. There goes Genji, he's going in with the Dragon Blade, 1v6, oh look, he killed 3 people. If only our team were there, right? Then maybe we'd actually be able to gain some momentum off of that. But no, we're all getting back, but they've got the spawn advantage, because their spawn's right there. So even though it was, like, okay, you know, it was a play, we weren't here. Like, do it when your team is alive instead. If you're gonna make big plays, wait until your team is actually there. So we've ended up being in that awkward spot where, like, it looks like we got the checkpoint, right? 'Cause it's, like, past the marker, but no, we didn't get the checkpoint. Imagine if Genji made his big play where he killed 3 people when our entire team was there. We would have caught the checkpoint, wouldn't we? But no. People have got no fucking patience. This never gets better. People never have any self-preservation instincts, and they never have any patience. Never. All the way up in Masters. Maybe Grandmaster is the Holy Land, but somehow I doubt it. You probably just play with the same Torbjorn 1 trick for like 7 games in a row, if I had to guess. Whereas if you're in Masters, you only have to do it like 4 games in a row. That's the improvement right there. So we've only got 1 fight left. We're almost out of time, and then Symmetra's right here. Did we see Symmetra? I feel like we saw Symmetra, but I was kind of complaining a little bit. Yeah, she reses Symmetra right there. So, like, get away from the Symmetra before you start doing this one, because that's what happens. Now, we didn't really look at who res, but, like, kill feed. Important information. We saw Symmetra got res, so she got res right there. We don't want to start coalescing right next to Symmetra, because she'll kill us. That's just how Symmetra is as a hero, you know? So, very sad. Almost got there, didn't quite get there. It's one of those games where I have trouble imagining you having the impact to change this game around, unless you played, like, a god. Which is always the get out of jail free clause. Like, you could always just play like an absolute god, right? You could always just play Widowmaker and kill all 6 of the enemy team, right? But, realistically, probably not gonna happen very consistently. It's just like, your team have very few self-preservation instincts, and like, you know, I look at like the Genji go in, kill 3 people with his Dragon Blade, but like the team is not there, and I'm like, alright, so that's the point where we could have won the game, but we had no control over what that dude did, so I don't see any point during this game where like, oh yeah, this is where you could have affected the impact of the game, you know? Granted, we've still got a lot to work with, right? Like, we still basically have the entire first 2 checkpoints to work with, because we got it all the way up to right at the checkpoint. So it's not the end of the world. Standing up there as Moira isn't honestly that good, because you can't really reach anybody, which is, you know, quite sad. So they still have a Symmetra. Chuck those damage orbs out there. Like, we've got ult charge to start building on. We gotta throw those orbs out there frequently. I mean, let's refer to Exhibit A. The damage orb is really good, because you build up so much ult charge. I talk about this every time, but just, you know, consistency. So the healing orb is really bad generally, because it's hard to get the full value out of it, because it does 300 healing. Unless like a lot of people in your team are really hurt, or you're in like a really confined location, and like your whole team is bunched up, it's not really that helpful, because it's hard to get the full value out of it. Unless you are in like sort of like the street phase area, where you can like bounce it back and forth across where you're going to have the team fight a few times. Quite a lot of maps don't really allow for that. And the healing orb is good, if you're dueling somebody, because then suddenly that plus the drain, Moira is suddenly healing 100 health per second. It's really hard to kill Moira through that, which is why Moira is very tilting to try and duel, because she is just suddenly healing so much health that it is really hard to kill her. The damage orb, however, very easy to get the full 200 damage out of, and the full 200 damage from Moira's orb gives you 10% ult charge, roughly. So, chuck that baby out there. They do have a diva, which makes things, you know, difficult, because she is likely just going to eat the orbs, but their team is rather difficult to play Moira against, because diva counters Moira because she can eat the orbs, which just makes Moira charge her ult so much less effectively, and it kind of, like, removes one of Moira's buttons. Like, it's not like, hard counter, can't play Moira against diva, but, like, you do have to acknowledge diva's there and play around it. And then Reinhardt makes it difficult for Moira because he blocks the right click, which makes it difficult to heal yourself and generate your resource. So both of them together starts to make it very difficult for Moira. And then we are also on a map that doesn't necessarily favor Moira that much, because it's largely about high ground control. The first point, not so much, like especially on defense, because you can just hang out on the low ground and it's not the end of the world. But when you're attacking the first checkpoint, like, you do have to actually, like, contest high ground, so Moira struggles a bit then. So that's not the best time. Right after saying throw those orbs out there, I'm about to chastise you for throwing your orb out, because you threw it directly at diva. So that's never gonna work. Like, you don't want to throw it directly at the diva. You have to kind of like get creative when there's a diva on the enemy team. You still want to use the orb as frequently as possible, because it's like part of the reason why Moira gets to generate so much ult charge. But you have to get a little creative. You have to kind of like wait till she's not looking, or wait until she's like used a fair chunk of her defense matrix, stuff like that. So here we're just sort of holding left click over a bunch of people who are not really hurt, and we've ended up using a lot of our resource that we didn't need to. Moira, like, here's what I do in this kind of situation as Moira, right? Just, like, sprinkle it over them all really quickly for, like, half a second, and then just, like, let that deal with it, right? Just let the regen do most of it. If the team is in a position where you're just kind of, like, taking poke damage, like a team fight isn't really happening, you can just do that, then wait a couple seconds, then do it again, then wait a couple seconds, then do it again, and you're just constantly healing, like, the bit of damage your team is taking, and you're, like, using basically none of your resource, because you can do that for half a second, and that's good enough to put the regen on people. You don't really want to, like, actually hold the left click over people unless, like, a fight is actually happening, because then you need to heal the person quite urgently, probably. But, like, if things are relatively neutral, like a team fight isn't happening, usually just doing that is good enough. There are situations where, like, you need somebody high health quickly. Like, your tank could be, like, a third health and you can see the enemy team is trying to advance in. Yeah, you haven't really got time to let the regen take care of it in that position. You've got to actually, like, heal the person up faster than that. But if things are relatively neutral, just, like, letting the regen take care of it is usually fine. Like, you see the enemy Moira's orb comes through, just, like, it'll undo all of it because it's probably not going to do more than 50 damage per person. So that's a pretty sick Earth Shatter, but unfortunately, Zenyatta managed to get up in time to actually use Transcendence. However, he's, like, didn't think about where he was going to end up, so he's over here now. So we're looking for the teleporter right now. We thought it was over here, and we called it out, then Junkrat sent his tire over here. We couldn't find it.
Oh, it's up top.
It's, like, up top, yeah. It's, you know, I would have put it on the low ground as well, so, like, next to the large health kit, so it's a little unusual. So, use your orb, because it does target these things, like, because that took an eternity. Like, that, I pushed back, like, 3 times, and it didn't actually go back far enough. Like, the damage orb does target, like, player-made things. Like, it flies over a Junkrat trap, it, like, breaks the Junkrat trap and stuff, like, cause Jesus Christ, that took so long. And our other healer is Lucio. Like, we can't commit that kind of time investment to breaking something. Like, yeah, I know it's the teleporter, so we want to break it, but Jesus, it's gotta be faster than that, because that took too long. So, Lucio's dead now. A lot of our team are dead. Some of them died while we were breaking the teleporter, and now we're just losing ground. Tracer's trying to kill us. That's one of those heroes that's, like, honestly not a threat to Moira, because she's really hard for Tracer to kill you, unless she is a god. So, ultimate's being used over there. Here's Baby D.Va. Oh, got her before she could get back in her mech, so that's great news. We are now playing way too aggressively, because we're, like, getting all up on Reinhardt's grill, like, no. Moira's an aggressive hero, but you're not allowed to be that aggressive, because Reinhardt smacking you. Yeah, you can't drain through that one. Like, you let somebody else more qualified than you go and deal with that one, because you don't want, especially seeing as you're the team's main healer, don't forget the other healer on our team is Lucio. We really can't afford to make a play that risky, because if we die, Lucio is not going to keep the team alive. So, they've still got a Symmetra, which is very annoying, very aggravating hero to play against because of this whole thing right here. So, yeah, that's getting creative. D.Va was looking at the main choke point, so we throw it over through the side. D.Va doesn't see it, it ends up doing most of its ticks of damage. That's kind of the stuff you gotta do against D.Va as Moira. Here, Symmetra's in there, she's not gonna work, it's not gonna happen, she wasn't allowed to do that one. So we just use Coalescence right now because they're starting to try and push their way in. Can you believe that they take this checkpoint? Because they do take this checkpoint. Even, like, with the team they have, and, like, Molten Core's happening right now. Can you believe? Can you believe? Yeah, scratch. Moira is like Winston in that regard, where, meleeing the person right at the, right when, they're in kill range is just, like, Winston does the same thing. It's like, punching that person is better than draining them, so, like, kind of getting a feel for, like, when you can melee somebody to death is pretty important for Moira. You're usually not as close as Winston would be, but, you know. it's still something worth getting used to. So now you're starting to see, like, oh, this is why we lose the checkpoint. Yeah, someone DC'd right at, like, the worst possible time. And, like, that's probably why we lose this checkpoint. Reinhardt also, like, whiffed his Earth Shatter really badly, and then they came in with both support ultimates, which is just generally going to make it really difficult. So it's just, like, a culmination of very unfortunate things lead to us losing this checkpoint. And again, this is why I'm like, yeah, I don't really think that you affect the outcome of this game. Because any game where, like, someone on your team DCs, like, especially right there at, like, a pivotal moment, is really bad. It really throws it off, right? Because also, don't forget, the enemy, somebody on your team disconnects, your team immediately tilts as a result of that. Like, that's just one of those things where as soon as they see that somebody on their team has left, they go, tilt immediately. Then also, because they disconnect, they drop any and all ult. That spiked the fuck out of the wavelength over there. I'm sorry, because like, I did that right next to the microphone. I just saw, like, solid blue line slide past. So as we can see, that wasn't us who DC. Retard. Immediately. Immediate tilt. You doubt. No. Immediate tilt. Especially since we lost the checkpoint while that happened. We might have done anyway, because they came in pretty strongly, right? Like, they came in with Transcendence, and Coalescence, and our Reinhardt missed his ultimate. So, like, them being there might not have even made the difference, but because it happened, you go, that's why we lost the checkpoint. Right there. And that's where the tilt begins. So, we've got Coalescence. Like, now, because our team has tilted, here comes, we can see him doing that, so it's not the worst thing in the world, because we can see where he's going to be coming from. We also don't have a Mercy during this checkpoint, which is just really sad as well. Oh god, here comes Reinhardt. We could have got out, but we just didn't execute it correctly, and we, like, faded backwards and then didn't actually get anywhere. If we could just, like, fade past him.
That's alright, but we need a time.
We could probably get it. Well, we would probably not get away, but, like, it would have gone better, probably. And, like, this dude's like, I'm gold, dude. The thing is, someone DCs, they also drop all their medals, so he could have very easily stolen that gold medal. Not that it really means anything anyway, but could have stolen it. And then, so as you can see, team immediately tilts. Giant Dwarf spends, like, the entire half of the game just typing in chat rather than coming out to try and defend at any point. Oh, God, you know. Overwatch is a wonderful game. Oh, look, here's Genji getting his play of the game. If only our team was alive when he did that.
Kill anybody? You just kind of fucked off all game?
I love a good internet fight. So, yeah, like, it's a really sad ending to the story, isn't it? Because it looks like it's going so well. It's like, oh yeah, we got this in the bag. Look at that. We've got it. They're coming in overtime right now. And then just within 30 seconds, the game's over. Like, what happened here? The Overwatch community is absolutely terrible. As to no great surprise. So, things that stand out. We weren't super efficient with our, resource, which is important. Which largely comes down to, using the regen rather than actually, like, holding the spray over them as much as possible. Making sure you're actively doing damage. Like, general thing, if you've spent, like, a couple of seconds holding down your heal, try to spend, like, a couple of seconds doing damage afterwards to try and even it out. Because, like, honestly, I never look at the gauge. I always just try and be like, alright, I've done, like, a couple seconds of healing, now I'm gonna try and do a couple of seconds of damage to, like, refill the resource, basically. Yeah, like, resource management, important skill for Moira. Largely comes down to using the regen as much as possible. Played, like, kind of too aggressively a few times, and then, not aggressively enough a couple of times for my taste. I like to fight. Also kinda held on to Coalescence. Like, we used Coalescence a little awkwardly. mostly I'm thinking of that one time with the Roadhog, where that was really bad. Like, that was a terrible use of Coalescence. When just using it like a second or two earlier would have been perfectly fine. Those are like the damage orbs as well. Like, you still want to throw them out as much as possible. Like, you want to throw it out there basically on cooldown. But if they have a diva, you have to acknowledge the fact they have a diva and get a little bit more creative with how you throw your damage orb out there. But, like, really, it's very important for Moira to just be, like, proactively throwing orbs out and doing damage as much as possible, because the thing you've got to really try and leverage about Moira is that her ultimate charges really quickly, because you can just get a lot of them off in one game, and then you just, as soon as you've got it, you look to use it as quickly as possible, and then you start rebuilding it, then you start building the next one quickly. Because that's the thing as well. If Moira's ult charges quickly, you have to use it quickly, because otherwise you don't benefit from the fact it charges quickly. But, like, that's the thing that's strong about Moira, how fast her ult charges. So, you know. Anyway, so, thank you very much for watching. If you did, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer, and I hope you found the video helpful.